Although her pain lessened and her sleeping improved, the striking aspect of Cindy's regressions was the extraordinary level and acuity of detail. She could see, smell, feel, taste, and hear that cattle car. She was ministering to her Jewish Holocaust Gemeinschaft, and in this life she is, in fact, a minister, once again tending to her flock, once again with grace and dignity. Our souls may take on a million different forms. We can become lion or dandelion, plant or person. If we have assumed a human form, we can be any color, any race, any sex. Whichever form we choose, underneath the surface we are exactly the same. We are all connected, we are all the same substance and energy, born of the same source, composed of the same spiritual material. It really is senseless to continue to afflict ourselves with countless wars and violence, because we harm ourselves whenever we harm one another. Nazis have reincarnated as Jews, and German Jews as American Christians, just as in Cindy's 2 lifetimes. We have been the murderers and the murdered, the violent and the victims of violence. If we have had a lifetime of being hurtful, then we have also had a lifetime of being the monk who would never harm even an ant, and now we are living somewhere in between, learning about balance. That is how we evolve. We are often pulled back into the bodies of our enemies to teach us the truth that skin color, nationality, religion, and gender are external trappings that do not belong to the soul. Hatred distorts reality. We have to learn from all sides. When we are born into our enemies' bodies, what choice do we have but to love them? We see their helpless little babies, we watch them tending to their aging grandparents, worrying about having enough food or shelter, and dealing with the same 1,000 details of everyday life that we do. We recognize that they are us. With this wisdom comes peace. Our community, our true Gemeinschaft, is the entire human community and beyond. Once we look into the eyes of another and see ourselves looking back, we will be able to create a heaven on this earth. 2. Validating the memories. Past life regression therapists are usually working at 2 levels during their sessions. The therapeutic level is constantly present and perhaps most important. The validational level is occasionally possible but always fascinating. Over the years, many of my patients have been able to confirm the accuracy of their reincarnational memories through documentation of names, historical facts, or even military identification, such as dog tag numbers. They have remembered home addresses, ship names, and numerous other details that confirm their recollections. The internet has made documentation so much easier. Online searches can be carried out quickly and inexpensively. Several people have used information on the internet to confirm Catherine's brief description of one of my own previous lifetimes, which was mentioned in a few paragraphs in Many Lives, Many Masters. This kind of investigation was much more difficult 30 years ago, when I was treating Catherine. Observational confirmations are also important. People who, during regressions, are able to speak foreign languages that they have never studied provide another sort of confirmation about the validity of past life experiences. This is called xenoglossy, and it cannot be attributed to mere fantasy or imagination. Sometimes the languages spoken during the regression may even be extinct, such as ancient Aramaic. If the session has been recorded, the languages can be verified by a university linguistics department. A surgeon from Beijing, who was seeing me on her first journey outside China, regressed to a lifetime in California in 1850. Because she knew no English at all, the session was carried out with the expert aid of a Chinese interpreter. As the woman recalled having an argument with her husband in that life, she began to speak very fluent and colorful English. The translator, not realizing what was happening, automatically began to translate what she was saying back into Chinese. "Stop," I had to gently instruct him. "I understand English." The interpreter nearly fainted, for he knew that the woman had never spoken a word of the language. I will never forget the look of amazement on his face. Returning home. In the summer of 2008, I was part of your training seminar. I'm the director of spiritual life and the chaplain at Nichols College, and in the round of introductions I described myself as the man with the hyphenated name, Wayne Daniel, half Portuguese, half Jewish, a Portajew. It got quite a laugh. Since receiving your training at Omega, I have been leading regressions with great success. It has become a major tool in my work as a chaplain. I underwent a series of past life regression sessions with Dr. Sylvia Hammerman of Massachusetts, all centering on the same life in the 1st century CE. The regressions began with me as a small boy, 6 or so years old, called Yoshia or Yossi. I was apparently an orphan raised by the Essens. At that age, I escaped the destruction of my home, the Essen compound that what is today Qumran, at the hands of the Romans. During the course of my sessions with Sylvia, I experienced memories from that early age all the way to my death as Yossi in my 20s. After my escape from the burning Essen compound, I wandered in the Judean desert for 2 nights. Finally, I was found by a goatherd, a woman who brought me to her home. A few weeks later, her brother appeared to take me away. With the Essens I had begun to learn the rudiments of reading and writing, and this man, whose name was Ishmael, had a school where I could live and be further taught. As Sylvia moved the memory ahead in time, I experienced myself as an early adolescent, the primary pupil and assistant to Reb Ishmael. He was very progressive in his approach and teachings, utilizing not only traditional Jewish texts but also concepts from Greek philosophy and other sources. This angered many at the Torah Academy where we lived and where he taught, and at one point it was necessary for us to flee in the night. We went south, over time ending up in Alexandria. Initially, Sylvia had requested that I not attempt any research on the memories I was experiencing. She wanted me simply to allow the experience to sink in. Although I had heard about the Essens, I really knew little about to sink in. Although I had heard about the Essens, I really knew little about them, and it took a few sessions before I came to understand where I had been and with whom. Eventually, Sylvia gave me the okay to start doing some research on my memories. I was astounded, to say the least, by what I found. That night, I searched online for Hosea, but only found things about old Puritan New Englanders. I then typed in Rabbi Hosea and came to a website that spoke of a 2nd century Talmudic master named Rabbi Hosea. Very little was known of him. He lived in the south, and the Palestinian mission was largely written in the north, in Galilee. It went on to say that he was the primary disciple of a Rabbi Ishmael ben Elisha. I clicked on that name and found information on him. One piece of scholarly speculation was that Ishmael ben Elisha was just a code name for another rabbi, named Elisha ben Abuya, apparently an infamous heretic. He was condemned and expelled from the Sanhedrin. There were a number of possible explanations: that he was too devoted to Greek thought and tried to introduce it into the assembly, that he was a Gnostic, that he was a Christian, and so forth. The article made a point of saying that all we know about Reb Elisha came from his enemies and wasn't very reliable. It is known that he was a major scholar with lots of contributions to Talmud, so much so, the speculation goes, that some rabbis didn't want to have to expunge all his teachings, and as a result they invented this code name to cover their flank. He is also referred to in the Talmud as Akbar, and the other. Well, I was bowled over. I noticed that, unlike the other names I was seeing, this Rabbi Hosea was not listed as Ben anyone, which means son of. Just Hosea, as if he had no parentage. I had never heard of Elisha ben Abuya and knew nothing of his background. This only confirmed for me the validity of the regressions. In 2009, the summer following my regressions, I had the opportunity to travel to Israel. I stayed at a Christian monastery on Mount Zion, and I was determined to get to Qumran. In the company of a friend I'd made in the monastery, a teacher at a Catholic school in America who'd listened to me recount my regression experiences and didn't think I was crazy, I got on the bus and headed off. We arrived, paid our entrance fee, and approached the ruins of the Essen compound. Well, my new friend said, I suppose you know where you're going. I certainly do, I answered. We go right in through here. But that says exit, but that says exit, I don't care what it says, I responded. That's the way in. I moved through the ruined compound easily and deliberately. I knew exactly where everything was and what it was. Up this lane, I said to my friend, was the place where we ate. The men sat on blankets, and the boys served them. Afterward, we had our meal. And, sure enough, at the end of that path was a ruin-marked refectory, with a drawing of men seated on blankets, eating. Down here, I said as we proceeded, was the place where the scrolls were written. We boys would stand to the side, and the scribes would call out for more ink or for a new writing utensil. They used short, hollow reeds, sharpened on one end. Needless to say, we turned a corner and walked into a ruin-marked scriptorium. In my first regression session, I had seen this scriptorium with a round, raised hearth burning. It was quite distinctive. I described it to my friend, saying, it was right around here somewhere. Wayne Daniel, he said, look down. There, at my feet, was a series of concentric circles, made of stone, pressed into the earth exactly as I had seen. Wayne Daniel Berard. Soulmate, this is a part of Zindagi Ki Roshni consultancy. It has been established for those who have lost someone and for those who are very sad in their life. About 100 PDF books and 20 short audio books of this topic will be sent to those who join it. This data will be sent to their email or WhatsApp. If you want to join this organization, then please send WhatsApp message to this number.